Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopinath Vallabha Girivaradhare Jai Gopinath Vallabha Girivaradhare Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachade Yamuna Tira Vanachade Jai Radha Madhava Punjabi Hare Jai Radha Madhava Punjabi Hare Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai ki Jai Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki Jai His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki Jai Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone to the Shri Radha Gopinath Mandir. So, today is expected very hot day. So, what is our only solace? That is AC, right? And so, in the heat of material existence, what is our only solace? That is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So outside can be very hot and miserable, but it's very nice and cool inside. So welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. We will start a new chapter today, chapter 15 of the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is entitled Parashurama, the words warrior incarnation. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shaloke Chaksharan Militam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanepyo Vaishnavepyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Dashatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhatai Mahatpriya Mahapura Vibhur Nirmaya Ksheti Yadamusha Purusha Bhungte Gunan Sudasa Sadasatmaka Lankrishishta Bhagavan Vacham Sime. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This chapter describes the history of Gadhi in the dynasty of Aila. From the womb of Urvashi came 6 sons named Ayu, Shrutayu, Satyayu, Raya, Jaya, and Vijaya. The son of Shrutayu and Vasuman, the son of Shrutayu was Vasuman, the son of Satayu was Shrutanjaya, the son of Raya was Eka, the son of Jaya was Amita, and the son of Vijaya was Bhima. Bhima's son was named Kanchana, the son of Kanchana was Hatraka, and the son of Hatraka was Janu, who was celebrated for having drunk all the water of the Ganges in one sip. That's why Ganga is called Jahnavi. One of the names of Ganga is Jahnavi because it was drunk by Janu Muni. But then he released it back. That's going to be described a little later. The descendants of Janu, one after another, were Puru, Balaka, Ajaka, and Kusha. The sons of Kusha were Kushambu, Tanaya, Basu, and Kushanaba. From Kushambu came Gadhi, who had a daughter named Satyavati. Satyavati married Richika Muni after the Muni contributed a substantial dowry, and from the womb of Satyavati by Richika Muni, Jamadagni was born. The son of Jamadagni was Rama or Parashurama. When a king named Kartavirya Arjuna stole Jamadagni's desire cow, Parashurama, who is ascertained by learned experts to be Shaktavesh incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, killed Kartavirya Arjuna. Later he annihilated the Kshatriya dynasty 21 times. After Parashuram killed Kartavirya Arjuna, Jamadagni told him that killing a king is sinful and that as a Brahmana he should have tolerated the offense. Therefore Jamadagni advised Parashuram to atone for his sin by traveling to various holy places. So we'll read the first 10 texts because mostly they have no purports, and a couple of purports appearing there are very short, and so text 10 has quite a substantial purport. So we'll read all these texts through and chant text 10 responsively. Shri Badarayani Ruvacha Ailasya Chorvashi Garbhat Sat Asan Atmajan Ripa Ayu Shrutayu Satyayo Rayotha Vijayo Jaya. Shukadeva Goswami continued, O King Parikshit, from the womb of Urvashi 6 sons were generated by Pururava. Their names were Ayu, Shrutayu, Satyayu, Raya, Vijaya, and Jaya. Shrutayor Vasuman Putra Satyayoscha Shrutanjaya Rayasya Suta Ekascha Jayasya Tanayo Mita Bimastu Vijayasyata Kanchano Hotrakastata Tasya Janu Suta Gangam Gandusi Kriyayo Pibat. The son of Shrutayu was Vasuman, the son of Satyayu, Shrutanjaya, the son of Raya, Eka, the son of Jaya, Amita, and the son of Vijaya, Bhima. The son of Bhima was Kanchana, the son of Kanchana was Hotraka, and the son of Hotraka was Janu, who drank all the water of the Ganges in one sip. Janostu purus tasyatha palakaschatmajo jaka tata kusha kushayapi kushambus tanayo vasu kushana bascha chatvaro gadhir asit kushambuja. The son of Janu was Puru, the son of Puru was Balaka, the son of Balaka was Ajaka, and the son of Ajaka was Kusha. Kusha had 4 sons named Kushambu, Tanaya, Vasu, and Kushanaba. The son of Kushambu was Gadhi. Tasya Satyavatim Kanyam Richiko Yachata Dvija Maram Vishadrisham Matva Gadhir Bhargavam Abravit Ekata Syama Karnanam Hayanam Chandra Varchasam Sahasram Diyatam Shulkam Kinyaya Kushika Vayam. King Gadhi had a daughter named Satyavati, whom a Brahmana sage named Richika requested from the king to be his wife. King Gadhi, however, regarded Richika as an unfit husband for his daughter, and therefore he told the Brahmana, "My dear sir, you belong to the dynasty of Kusha. Because we are aristocratic Kshatriyas, we have to give some dowry for my daughter. Therefore, bring at least 1,000 horses, each as brilliant as moonshine, and each having 1 black ear, whether right or left." Purport. The son of King Gadhi was Vishwamitra, who was said to be a Brahmana and Kshatriya combined. Vishwamitra attained the status of a Brahmarishi, as explained later. From the marriage of Satyavati with Richika Muni would come a son with the spirit of a Kshatriya. King Gadhi demanded that an uncommon request be fulfilled before the Brahman Richika could marry his daughter. Text 7. Ituktastan matam gyatva gata sa varunantikam aniya tatvatanasvan upaime varananam. When King Gadhi made this demand, the great sage Richika could understand the king's mind. Therefore he went to the demigod Varuna and brought from him the 1,000 horses that Gadhi had demanded. After delivering the horses, the sage married the king's beautiful daughter. So this is called Brahminical intelligence. Text 8. Sarishi pratita pancha swashriva chapatya kamyaya shapayitvo bhayar mantrais charum snatum gato muni. Thereafter, Richika Muni's wife and mother-in-law, each desiring a son, requested the Muni to prepare an oblation. Thus Richika Muni prepared one oblation for his wife with the Brahmana mantra and another for his mother-in-law with the Kshatriya mantra. Then he went out to bathe. So it's pretty good to have Brahmana, qualified Brahmana, either as a husband or as a son-in-law. He can do anything with mantras, can fulfill any desire. So these ladies, they took advantage of that. Text 9. Tavat satyavati mantra svacharum yachita sati shestam matva tayayachan matre matur adat swayam. Meanwhile, because Satyavati's mother thought that the oblation prepared for her daughter, Richika's wife, must be better, she asked her daughter for that oblation. Satyavati therefore gave her own oblation to her mother and ate her mother's oblation herself. Purport. A husband naturally has some affection for his wife, therefore Satyavati's mother thought that the oblation prepared for Satyavati by the sage Richika must have been better than her own oblation. In Richika's absence, the mother took the better oblation from Satyavati and ate it. So this is called mental speculation. Not following parampara, doing things whimsically. And so text 10, we'll chant responsibly. It's on the board. Tat viditva muni praha. Tat viditva muni praha. Pantim kastam akarashe. Pantim kastam akarashe. Gorodanda dara putra. Gorodanda dara putra. Bharatate brahma vittama. Bhratate brahma vittama. Tatviditva muni praha. Pantim kastam akarashe. Gorodanda dara putra. Bhratate brahma vittama. Please. Tapidita. Ladies, please. Tat, this fact, viditva, having learned, munihi, the great sage, praha, said, patnim, unto his wife, kashtam, very regrettable, akarashe, you have done, gora, fierce, Dandatara, a great personality who can punish others, Putraha, such a son, Bharata, Bhrata, brother, Te, your, Brahma Vittamaha, a learned scholar in spiritual science. When the great sage Richika returned home After bathing and understood what had happened in his absence, he said to his wife Satyavati, "You have done a great wrong. Your son will be a fierce kshatriya, able to punish everyone, and your brother will be a learned scholar in spiritual science." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A Brahmana is highly qualified when he can control his senses and mind, when he is a learned scholar in spiritual science, and when he is tolerant and forgiving. A Kshatriya, however, is highly qualified when he is fierce in giving punishment to wrongdoers. These qualities are stated in Bhagavad Gita 18:42 and 43. Because Satyavati, instead of eating her own oblation, had eaten that which was meant for her mother, she would give birth to a son imbued with the Kshatriya spirit. This was undesirable. The son of a Brahmana is generally expected to become a Brahmana, but if such a son becomes fierce like a Kshatriya, he is designated according to the description of the four varnas in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vivagashaha. If the son of a Brahmana does not become like a Brahmana, he may be called a Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra according to his qualifications. The basic principle for dividing society is not a person's birth, but his qualities and actions. So the Canto 9 of Srimad Bhagavatam is entitled Liberation, Mukti, because it is preparing us for the 10th canto, Ashraya, the ultimate shelter, which describes Krishna, his Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Lila, his names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. And to understand Krishna, one has to be a liberated soul. And Srila Prabhupada's mentioning that real devotional service starts after one becomes liberated. And Canto 9 is leading us to the description of Krishna's appearance and his activities. And so we read about all these dynasties of great kings gradually leading to the appearance of the Supreme Lord. And here we read about one incarnation of the Supreme Lord, very important incarnation, Parashuram. The Lord incarnated as a Kshatriya, as a warrior. And later on we'll read in this chapter how he was destroying all the unqualified Kshatriyas who were abusing their position. So that was the punishment. He wiped out the Kshatriya race 21 times until all the Kshatriyas, all the remaining Kshatriyas, they fled very far away from Bharatvarsha. And so Prabhupada describes in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that they took shelter, they went up into the mountains, and these were Caucasian hills, so they took shelter in that. So having been born in that area, I know that people have very distinct Kshatriya qualities, such as being very charitable, very, outgoing, open, honest, in face. It's like with those people, you need not worry about politics. Whatever they think, whether it's good or bad, they will tell you directly. And then you can either take it or leave it. Like that, so kind of. Of course, like trained kshatriyas, they also know how to be diplomatic. But it's very interesting because as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, everything in Bhagavatam, every single verse and every single word is glorifying Krishna. But we read these descriptions about some king, his wife, and his mother-in-law, this Brahmana, Richika, somehow he got the idea that I don't want to marry a Brahmani, I want a princess for myself. And he goes to this king and he says, I want to marry your princess, and the king cannot say no. It's dangerous to say no to Brahmanas because they are pretty powerful people. They may curse and make you into a frog or something. And then what to do? How one can manage the whole kingdom being a frog? It's not really possible. So therefore in Vedic culture everyone was a little bit careful about these Brahmanas, sages, because they had those powers, right? Like we read in Bhagavatam how all these Brahmanas, they just cursed Benu Maharaj because he was misusing his position. And the guy just died. They just said, you should die, and he died. This is how powerful Brahmanas are. Whatever they say becomes a reality. Of course, this was in the old times when Brahmanas were very, very qualified. So, like the neophyte Brahmanas, they were practicing being truthful. Truthfulness is the very important quality for a Brahmana, and so that's why they wouldn't say anything which was not true, right? You could completely trust even the neophyte Brahmana. Whatever he would say was absolute truth. But then when the Brahmana would become accomplished, very qualified, then this quality manifested in such a way that whatever the Brahman would say, even though it's not true, would actually become the truth in future, right? Even if it was not supposed to happen. But because Brahmana said that, and we read some examples of that, even the Lord would arrange things in such a way that whatever Brahmana promised would come into effect. So this was the power of these great sages. And it's quite possible to develop such qualities by following the same process they followed. So this is the idea behind being Krishna conscious. And so this king didn't want to tell him no. Why do you want to marry a princess? Just marry some Brahmani girl. And so he wanted to kind of trick this Richika Muni, and he told him, yes, but you have to give me a dowry. And how many horses? Like 10,000, 10,000? 8,000, okay. So 1,000 horses, but not just any horses. But one ear should be black, one ear should be white. And he said, either ear can be black or white, it's your choice. But to find that many horses with this distinct characteristic is not an easy thing, right?
So it was nearly an impossible task. But then this Brahmana figured it out. He, instead of trying to accomplish this task on his own, he just went and he used his contacts to get the job done. And so he requested Varuna, can you sort things out? And Varuna easily provided him with those horses. So he came back with those horses, and now king had no excuse, so he had to fulfill his promise. That's very important quality of both Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. You know, the higher classes, they have to keep their word. Whatever they promised, they would rather die than break their word. So that's very important, because truthfulness is the foundation of Daiva Varnashram system. And so, he gave his daughter in marriage to this Brahmana, and so now they, of course, his wife wanted a nice son, and her husband could arrange the exact son, the exact quality of a child his wife wanted, because he was such a powerful Brahmana. He could design future, he could create future with his powers. And so his wife's mother, his mother-in-law, she was thinking, wow, that's great. He can do that. Let me also take an advantage of that. I also want a good son. And so he prepared oblations for them. Apparently there was some system. The Brahmanas would give ladies some special fruit, and these ladies would take that fruit, and that would somehow help them to, beget the exact quality of a child they were looking for. So somehow he prepared these oblations, and but they switched, as it's described. And so effectively, because his mother-in-law was Kshatriya lady, and she was supposed to have a Kshatriya son, prince, but she ate the oblation of her daughter, and her daughter was supposed to give birth to a Brahmana. But when she ate that oblation, effectively, she would give birth to a Brahmana, and her daughter would give birth to a Kshatriya with very fierce nature. And so naturally we may ask ourselves, why, what's so special about all these, mishaps happening in the past, many thousands of years ago. People always make mistakes and always driven by their selfish desires. But this is what Bhagavatam is teaching us, that actually no matter what we do, and no matter what kind of mistakes we make, the Supreme Lord has His own plan, and He is executing His plan regardless of what we do. It's very interesting. Sometimes I'm thinking these days that, when I was very young devotee, I was under the influence of illusion. I was thinking that somehow I'm contributing to, people's joining this movement. But now I came to a conclusion that people are joining this movement despite of people like myself. So, and I think many devotees, experienced devotees would share that thing, that people are joining this movement not because of us, but despite of us, right? Because what is our qualification? It's very hard to trace it with a microscope sometimes. But Krishna has his own plan, and so he's encouraging people. Like all these stories, how the devotees were joining. I mean, this is probably one of the most exciting topic. Like how different devotees join the movement. Such unbelievable stories. Like Ritudvaj Maharaj shared his story, how he just lived not very far from the temple, just it happened so, and one fine morning, actually even night time, it's like 3 o'clock or something, 3 in the morning, someone's knocking at his door, and he wakes up and opens the door, and then he's seeing this very strange man with shaved head and dressed in kind of bed sheets. And he's saying, I'm a monk and we are worshipping the Lord here nearby, and we need few flowers for our morning service. So would you please allow us to pick few flowers from your garden? And he's like really sleepy, and he says, just take, don't worry. And so he closes the door, goes back to sleep. And then when he wakes up, finally, and he looks outside, or out of his window into his garden, he noticed that he's noticing that the whole scene changed. There is not a single flower in the garden. And he's like shocked. He's saying, what kind of God they worship? Who are these guys? He said few flowers. And he just cleaned it all out. So I have to go and, talk to them. And he goes, of course, being very irritated, he goes to the temple. And then devotees explain to him why he should give not only all his flowers, but all his life to Krishna. And he joins from there. And he becomes a devotee. And he's not the only one who had this kind of experience. So sometimes devotees do everything in their power not to encourage people at all to join the movement, and still people join. I know so many examples. Devotees trying to talk people out from joining, and still they join. So we can understand that everything's happening according to Krishna's plan, and thankfully so. That if we would have the capacity to, kind of execute our plans, I'm not sure what kind of mess we would do. But Krishna is so expert that he doesn't care about these mistakes and mishaps, and he is using all this to carry out his plan. And in this particular pastime, because Srila Prabhupada is focusing our attention in his purport on the varnashram system and the qualities of different varnas and how it is important. And we can understand that if it is a pure varna, then people have pure qualities. But the problem sometimes, and especially in our day and age, that people have very mixed natures, very mixed varnas, and so sometimes it's hard to figure out who is who. And even people themselves don't know who they are. Like Bhaktivedanta Maharaj jokes that most people in Kali Yuga, they want to instruct others and, live very easy life like brahmanas, rule over others like kshatriyas, have a lot of money like vaishyas, and take no responsibility for their actions like shudras. So, like collect the cream from all cakes. Have only advantages but no responsibilities. So this is Kali Yuga, and this is how the whole mess is created. And then we may wonder, like people make all these mistakes, so how the Lord is executing His plan? Actually, He's taking advantage of all these things. And this is very amazing that the Lord was planning to come as Parashuram, born in a Brahmana family but with Kshatriya spirit, very strong Kshatriya spirit, and for that he needed mixed background, he needed mixed family. And so this is the, preface or introduction to that whole pastime. How Lord Parashuram appeared. He had those qualities because he came from mixed background. And this mixed background happened because of certain material desires people had, as it is described here. Because if people wouldn't have material desires, they wouldn't make any mistakes. But there are plenty of examples in Shastras how Krishna is taking advantage of all these mistakes to execute his plan, right? And so this is one of those examples. And because Srila Prabhupada was making this point very clearly, that one of the tasks of the Krishna consciousness movement is to restore Varnashram system somehow, because Daivi Varnashram, because if people acting according to their positions in the Lord's service, then they become very successful and they can encourage others. And we do see those examples very rarely nowadays because it's Kali Yuga, but still they do exist. Mostly in India, some people do have pure natures, like pure Brahmanas, or pure Kshatriyas, or pure Vaishyas, or even pure Shudras. I've seen some very astonishing examples. Of course, Brahmana examples are very impressive. Like I was taking a Panchakarma treatment in South India, Udupi, one of the holy places where Madhvacharya has his deities, and my doctor, he was just 24 years old, and he was PhD in medical science, and he was a computer programmer on the top, and he was a Sanskrit scholar, and he was a yoga master, and he was an accomplished astrologer at 24 years old. So, what do you call it? Prodigy child? And so, mind-blowing. He spoke Sanskrit better than his own language. And his English was also perfect. And so, the kind of knowledge and the kind of qualities he had I was like shocked. And then, but he became curious. He said, you're a Westerner, you are Russian, and so why are you dressed in Indian dress and why are you wearing Vaishnava tilak? And I said, well, I explained to him about ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada, how Prabhupada came to the West and spread the movement. After the age of 70, he said, really? One man did that? I said, yes. And I told him about the books. He said, that's very interesting. I would love to read his books. I said, oh, that's easy. I can bring you a few Prabhupada's books. Next time, it says, keep a good relationship with your doctor. That may help. And so I brought him as a gift a few Prabhupada's books. And the way he handled Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita with such a respect and such a care, I was like blown away. And he said, wow, what kind of, work is that? Original texts are there, and Roman transliterations, and synonyms and translations purpose. Wow, such a deep work. And I was, of course, telling him that Prabhupada spent sleepless nights to produce these books and all. And he said, thank you very much, and what do I owe you for these books? I said, well, don't worry, it's a little gift for you. These books are not expensive at all. He said, no, but I still want to give you something. I said, it's not nothing significant. I just want to give these books to you as a gift. And then he looked at me with tears in his eyes. And he said, you don't understand, in our culture, if someone gives us a scripture, this person is a guru, and guru has to be given dakshina. So I wanted to give you donation for the shastra. And I was like really embarrassed. I said, come on, just forget about it. I'm not a guru, it's Prabhupada, and these books are not expensive, so I don't want any money from you. And you do so many favors to me, I just return you the favor. And because he already did few favors, he allowed me, for example, to be outpatient, which is very rare. They allow these exceptions because mostly people cannot follow diet, so they have to stay in the hospital to be under close surveillance to make sure that they follow the diet. But for devotees they allow, because they know devotees are quite good in discipline, and devotees are not going to cheat the doctor. If they said they're going to follow the diet, they will. And so, but he said, yeah, I've realized you're not going to take money off me, so I'll have to arrange something else. And after the treatment was over, and I went, it was a government hospital, like really first-class facilities. I went to pay the bill, and the cashier said, your bill is already paid. And it was, few $100s, maybe not that much according to Australian standards, but for India it's quite a bit. And I was like confused, who paid the bill? And they told me that your doctor paid your bill. And I went back to him, I said, why have you done that? These books, are not costing even like fraction of that money you paid for my treatment. And, you're not like fabulously wealthy. He said, it doesn't matter, I can afford it, and so you didn't want to take my money, so I had to reciprocate with you somehow. But I said, you gave so much more than I gave you, And he said, we're not, bargaining here. Just, you did me a favor, I did you a favor, let's forget about it. But please come to my house for lunch and bring your friends along. And when we came to the house, I realized where these kind of people coming from. Because his father is a Sanskrit scholar who traveled the world giving lectures, university professor in Sanskrit. His grandfather is renowned astrologer whose textbooks are used all over India. And of course, as it's the case with so many cultured Indian families, they know their gotra, where their lineage coming from the creation of the universe. I think the mother was from Bharadvaj gotra, and father was from Vasishta gotra, etc. And to cut the long story short, like their parents, because of being like ignorant as I am, during the lunch, I asked the mother, there was like big table with so many preparations. I said, is it prasadam? And she got so offended. And she said, everything we eat in this house for generations is always prasadam. We offer everything. So it's like proper Vaishnava family for generations. And so, very pure nature, mind-blowing qualities. So pure Brahmana. It's very impressive. And he not only treated me, my mother had a serious problem with her nerves, like she was developing kind of Parkinson's disease, which is pretty much not treatable in the West. And I just mentioned to him, he says it's all nonsense, it's all treatable by Ayurveda. And so I just described the symptoms, and he said, go and get this particular medicine. And, I got this medicine, brought it to my mother, and she took it, and she got cured. It's like he knows all these mind-blowing secrets and just shares them, freely. And he's not like, he could become a millionaire with all his knowledge and qualities and skills, but he doesn't care. Like you can see that his desire just to serve others. His pleasure is coming from helping other people to solve their problems, and he doesn't care who is giving what. And I've seen many other examples, not necessarily even Brahmanas. I've seen one Shudra example, like traveling on the train from Delhi to Calcutta, and because I really had to be in Mayapur on a particular date, and the tickets were all sold, and the only tickets available were first class on the train, and it was still cheaper than the plane ticket, and so I got the first class, and I was in the compartment with two Westerners and one elderly Bengali who also lived in America for decades, most of his life. And the whole trip, first class in India, if you haven't had experience, means that the main commodity they provide you with is eating 24 hours. They serve, I don't know, first breakfast, second breakfast, brunch, lunch, I lost count how many times they came with food. And all these guys, they were eating pretty much all the way and drinking alcohol. Everybody, including that elderly Bengali. And all these, poor hosts, they were running around, bringing food, taking it out, etc. cleaning the whole thing. And there was one of the hosts, and his name was Ashok Das. I'll remember it for life, because it was amazing. He was serving with such an enthusiasm and with such a huge smile on his face. You could see that it's not a work for him, it's life. He's really enjoying serving people. And that elderly Bengali, who happened to be Brahmana, with the surname Mishra, and even when I spoke to him, he said, yes, I have the same surname as Lord Chaitanya Dev. I said, sir, how come that you degraded yourself so much? Having such a surname. And he became a little bit embarrassed. He said, yes, bad association. Living in the Western countries for too long. Picked up all the bad habits. Anyway, that elderly man, Brahmana, who was drinking alcohol and eating non-veg all the way, that he was so demanding. It's unbelievable. And I never saw anyone being so demanding. He literally tortured that Ashok Das. You know, Ashok, come here. You see the paper lying under the, pick it up. So Ashok, yes sir, picks up the paper and wants to leave. Ashok, come back. You know, take the pillow from there and put it under my back. You know, I feel a little bit uncomfortable. Yes sir. Takes the pillow. Okay, Ashok, tuck it a little bit here, okay, a little bit more. Okay, now you can go. No, come back. Like that, all the way. Like just torturing this Ashok. And this Ashok never lost his smile. He was like happy. And you know, in Bengal, Das is the surname which indicates that one is belonging to Shudra family, right? So he was Shudra, but he was pure Shudra. He was enjoying the service so much. And I was thinking to myself, just looking at this Ashok, just make him into devotee and make him into pujari. I mean, what kind of service he will do to the deities? You know, so much eagerness he has for service, right? It just misdirected. So it has to be directed properly. You know, this kind of quality people still exist in India. So it doesn't matter which background one comes from. So if one has quality, it's amazing. It's, you know, you just need to introduce these people to Krishna, then they will become pure devotees pretty much from the start. So this is the power of Varnashram. But the point I was trying to make is that we don't have that advantage because our natures are so mixed. But actually, it's not a problem at all, because the combinations of different natures produce very special effect. Like Parashuram, he had these mixed natures, right? Brahmana, Kshatriya. And because of that, he was so excellent in his mission. So certain combinations of nature can be even more advantageous than pure nature. And I was thinking of Srila Prabhupada, because he was born in a Vaishnava family, but his father was Vaishya. And so naturally, Srila Prabhupada in his youth, he was doing business, following his nature. And being a Vaishnava, he had very strong Brahminical qualities. That's why studying Shastra and preaching and serving the Lord was the main part of his life, right? The purpose of his life. And also, he had a tinge of Kshatriya spirit, right? Because in his youth, he joined Gandhi's movement because he was so upset with the British abusing India and destroying Indian spiritual culture. He wanted to protect his country. And finally, when he met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he helped him to understand that instead of just being a political warrior, he has to become a spiritual warrior. And I was thinking, if Prabhupada would not have that tinge of a Kshatriya spirit in him, would he make that, bold step, practically leaping the abyss, right? Boarding that ship and going to the other side of the planet for a month and struggling so much and nearly dying on the way and still not giving up. Like these Kshatriyas, they fight until they are completely dead. Even if they are injured, they still fight, right? They don't care. It's like, I'll stop fighting only when I finished, right? And Prabhupada was actually saying like that. Sometimes, he would say, I want to die on the battlefield of preaching Krishna consciousness, like Arjuna, fight. Of course, Arjuna didn't die, but he wanted to fight like Arjuna and actually die fighting for Krishna. Like that, he was making these kind of comments, which was an indication that this Kshatriya tinge was very strong. And we can understand, if he wouldn't have that drive, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't make that bold step and wouldn't risk his life like that. If he would be a pure Brahmana, he would just sit somewhere in some temple, ring the bells, right? And if he wouldn't have his Vaishya experience, business background, just look how ISKCON is set up. I mean, it's spiritual organization, but it's incorporated, so it's corporation. It's a spiritual corporation with so many branches worldwide, right? And it's a business model if you think about it. Book sales, prasadam sales, right? And it's set in a very smart way. Because Srila Prabhupada set it in a very sustainable way. That's why it carries over. Like this year, it's going to be 40 years since Srila Prabhupada left this planet physically. But the movement goes from strength to strength because it's a very sustainable model. And so Srila Prabhupada's experience in organizing business helped to organize ISKCON in a very sustainable way. So he was not just a kind of Brahmana who had no practical experiences. So we can see also in relation to ourselves, sometimes we may think, oh, I have so many parts in my nature, so many influences, and which way do I choose? Actually, we don't have to choose. We just have to understand how to incorporate our whole self in serving Krishna, how to use every single quality and ability we have in serving Krishna and offer Krishna a unique service, which only you can do and no one else. So this is why Krishna created us individuals. This is the meaning of being persons. Even materially, we have certain abilities and qualities no one else has. And this is pleasing to Krishna if we use all these qualities and abilities in his service to the full extent. So, and I believe this is where real Varnashram will start developing, when devotees will be fully engaging in Krishna's service, using all the facets of their natures. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. We're a little bit over time, and so I don't want to hold devotees back. But if anyone has any questions, corrections, complaints, comments, we have senior Vaishnavas like Pratapna Prabhu, Mother Jayashri and other senior Vaishnavas. So if you want to say something, you're welcome. Otherwise, yes, Pratapna Prabhu. Yeah, unfortunately, the bad news is that this boy, because he was quite young, he died in accident. So Krishna took him away, unfortunately. Yeah, otherwise I would definitely recommend so many devotees that they take the treatment that happens. Apparently Krishna wants the best ones back to his abode. Sometimes it seems like that. All right. So, thank you all very much for your kind attention. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.